Back again. Here we go. Alrighty, folks, let's be real for a second. This economy we're having right now is like a bad relationship. On one hand, they're telling you things are good. On the other hand, they're gaslighting you into thinking you're the one who's crazy. And the news, well, if you're following the mainstream or corporate media, getting updates from them, you might as well be getting advice from your broke cousin, okay? One side of the aisle is telling you the sky's falling. The other side is saying it's raining gold bars. The truth is it's somewhere in between, so you have to focus on independent media, such as this channel, Coach's Corner, Fit Over 40, okay? But before we get started on this topic, I want you to smash that like button, smash that like button, smash that like button. All right, so let me ask you, are you really ready for what's about to hit your wallet? Because the Fed just said, and what they didn't say is about to shake things up, okay? The Federal Reserve, aka the economic puppet masters, just had one of their big meetings. They have several of those a couple times a year. Now, you know when Jerome Powell, the guy who runs it, steps up to the podium, he's got the whole world paying attention. The big money players, the investors, everybody who's focused on money, people like me, all right? When he talks, it affects the market, so we pay attention. Now, interest rates, just so you know, are going to stay put for right now. They're sitting between 4.25% and 4.5%. And the Fed is playing it cool. But let me explain something to you. The Fed funds rate, that's the federal interest rate. That is the interest rate banks charge each other for overnight loans, okay? It's set by the Federal Reserve, okay, to control inflation and economic growth. When the Fed raises this rate, borrowing gets more expensive. And when they lower it, borrowing gets cheaper for banks, okay? Now, mortgage rates, because that's what you're thinking about, these are rates that consumers pay to borrow money for a home loan. Mortgage rates are not directly controlled by the Feds, but they're definitely influenced by it, right? That's why we pay attention to Jerome Powell. Mortgage rates are most closely tied to the 10-year Treasury and overall economic conditions. Now, how do they affect each other? When the Fed raises rates, it makes borrowing more expensive, which can push mortgage rates higher, but not always immediately. When the Feds lower mortgage rates, they may go down, but other factors like inflation, investor demand for mortgage-backed security also play a role, okay? The Fed sets the cost of money for banks. Mortgage rates are influenced by the Feds, but also market conditions. Remember that. Inflation, investor confidence, things of that nature, okay? They're not always in a rush to cut rates. Why? Because they're still watching inflation like a jealous ex. Right now it's 2.8, not the magic 2% they want. Okay, but also not spiraling out of control. The real kicker is tariffs, okay? You've heard everybody say tariffs. You know, I think Powell mentioned it so many times you thought he was running for president. Okay, now if you don't know what tariffs do, let me put it simply. They raise prices on everything, period. Okay, now why does this matter to you? When Feds raise rates, borrowing gets more expensive. Your car loan, your mortgage, credit cards, even that buy now, pay later deal I told you guys not to do, you swore was a good deal? No, okay? When Feds cut rates, it's like an economic happy hour. Our loans get cheaper, people spend more money, and the market throws a little party, everybody wins. But here's the problem. Tariffs are about to throw a wrench in this whole system. Prices are going to go up, whether the Fed cuts the rate or not. So while Powell's acting like he's got it under control, your grocery bill is saying something different, okay? Even that car payment, you know, you're noticing it's a little higher. Or you go to get a car, you notice, wow, that's more expensive than I thought. So here's what I suggest you do right now. Stack your cash, stack your cash, stack your cash. Okay? Saving isn't sexy, but being broke isn't either, okay? Have at least 3 to 6 months of emergency money. And if you can swing more, obviously do it. Lock in your interest rates now. If you're trying to buy a home or refinancing or making any big financial move, get ahead of the game before rates shift, okay? Watch your spending. If you're out there financing a new car or doing some other things, you're just giving away your whole paycheck, okay? Pay attention to the market, not just what the media is telling you, but what's really happening, okay? Now, if you're into real estate or investing, stay sharp because the game is about to change. Here are my final thoughts on this point. Look, inflation is that annoying house guest that just sticks around longer than we want. And the Fed, they're moving at grandma's pace in that left lane, that person you honk at. Now, deciding what you should do, pay attention to channels like mine. Meanwhile, the real estate market, job market, and your professional or personal finances are all waiting to see what happens next. So the question is, are you ready? Because sitting back and playing the waiting game is not a strategy. Remember, hope is not a strategy. The smart ones are investing and they're moving now. They're positioning themselves to win before the market shift again. That's what you got to do. All right, so if you're looking to navigate this market without getting played, hit me up, whether it's real estate, financing, credit. Just make sure you don't get caught slipping. I got you. Let's talk. Schedule some time on my calendar in that link below. Hit that subscribe button for new videos like this every week. Let's go.